At first glance, this 3-bedroom home might look like any of the other thousands of New Zealand homes we'll build next year, but this house will emit 1/5 of the greenhouse gases of the average home across its construction and a 90-year lifespan. This dramatic reduction in emissions requires going far beyond adding solar panels to the roof and might give us a small peek into the future of construction in New Zealand.
So it's a really important issue to get our carbon emissions down from homes and buildings.
That's New Zealand Green Building Council CEO Andrew Eagles.
Homes and buildings make up 15% of our total greenhouse gas emissions in Aotearoa. And that's really important. The average new build home we build at the moment is 5 times our carbon budget. So we really need to get that down if we're going to hit our carbon targets.
The council manages the Homestar and Green Star sustainable building rating systems. It looks at 2 key types of emissions when trying to improve how we build our homes.
One is with the energy we use through operating the home. So when we turn on our lights, when we turn on our water heating, when we run the home, that type of thing. So that's one, that's operational carbon. And the other area is embodied carbon. And this is the carbon associated with building materials, the concrete, steel, aluminium, and other products. When we're manufacturing, transporting and creating those products, we create embodied carbon emissions.
There are still huge challenges when reducing the carbon in our homes. Nicola Tagiston and the team at Fletcher Living have looked at every aspect of the home to see what can be reduced.
So for every component of the building, we've analysed what the carbon could be. And where possible, we've designed to eliminate. And where we can't eliminate, we've looked at how we can lower the amount of carbon used. And where we can't do that, we can offset with the likes of solar PV on the roof.
To achieve their carbon goals, Fletcher Living has had to re-examine every aspect of the traditional New Zealand home.
It's very important to start with the actual form of the building. So a simple, uncomplicated box is the best from a carbon perspective because it uses less building materials. It also minimises thermal loss through junction. So if you have lots of corners, that's exactly where heat can escape from.
This, when combined with clever window placement, high quality insulation, good ventilation and a bunch of other modifications, has led to a dramatic drop in the operational carbon needed to run the home.
Over the course of the year, we expect the home to only use 450 kilowatts of electricity to heat. That's about 11 Nissan Leaf electric batteries worth.
But as Andrew Eagles pointed out, this is only half the battle. Reducing the embodied carbon in the materials that make up the home is a far trickier challenge. Even with the best design in the world, builders will always need to use some polluting materials, like concrete.
Concrete is the most used product on the planet after water. The main ingredient of concrete is cement. And to produce 1 ton of cement, 1 ton of CO2 roughly gets released into the atmosphere. In New Zealand, the number is a bit lower than that, but globally it's about right.
Zarina is the co-founder of Neocrete, a startup trying to create low-carbon alternatives to cement-based concrete.
Globally, cement manufacturing accounts to around 8% of total global carbon emissions. So if concrete making was its own country, let's say, it would be 3rd in terms of global carbon emissions after China and the US.
Concrete starts as a mix of Portland cement and water. This is then mixed with an aggregate like sand or gravel to make ready-to-pour concrete. Despite making up only 15% of the total mix in concrete, cement production causes as much as 90% of emissions. But Zarina doesn't think it has to be this way.
Concrete is not equal cement. And in fact, some of the oldest standing buildings on the planet were made with concrete with no cement. So if you go to Rome and look at Pantheon, that is the largest unreinforced structure that's still standing after 2,000 years, it used, let's say, green concrete because it didn't use cement at all. So what the Romans used, they used this amazing building material called pozzolans, and it's basically volcanic ash.
Replacing cement with other materials such as volcanic ash, slag from steel mills or fly ash from coal-fired power stations is seen as a great way to have a direct impact on carbon emissions. Even a small reduction in cement emissions would be the equivalent of getting thousands of cars off the road. But even with these wins on the horizon, the one thing everyone can agree on is we need to be trying every solution.
Wouldn't it be far better if, for instance, instead of creating more product, we either use less or we use existing structures? We need to look for these overarching reductions in our impact rather than just a green technological solution. The truth of the matter is that to get to 80% reduction, you need everything. So it's a good reminder of that.
These changes include decisive government action to help push the sector forward.
We're big supporters of those government initiatives and policies like emission trading scheme and emissions reduction plan, because we already can see a big shift in the industry since they have been introduced.
Construction can feel like a slow-moving industry churning out huge quantities of greenhouse gas, and New Zealand is behind many countries in the world. But the closer you look, the more you realise things are changing.
I really believe that New Zealand is the place to become that little green revolution in terms of green construction, and maybe New Zealand can show the world that it is possible, and not only possible, but it can be profitable as well.
This video was based on episode 6 of my podcast series, Net Zero, The Road to 2050. To learn more about green finance, zombie forests and hydrogen-powered raceboats, click the link in the description or listen wherever you get your podcasts.